Shalom Aleichem. Uh, Today I'm coming to talk about politics in the Bible, and in specific, communism and the Bible and how they relate. Now, most people who follow Torah follow social principles and social politics and don't even understand it because they apply Torah just to their personal lives and not to a land in general. Okay, and what supersedes socialist policies is communist policies. And Christ came to magnify those socialist policies in Torah, and he brought a communist policies to his teachings. Okay, and we're gonna examine that today. Just as I want to go to a few scripts and books, but the first book I'm gonna go to is Chairman Mao Zedong. Okay, this man was a revolutionary in China who overthrew the imperialists in the 1930s. Okay, and I'm gonna read a couple of his quotes, but right now, one of his famous quotes that most people quote is, it says here, "It can therefore be said that politics is war without bloodshed, while war is politics with bloodshed." What does it mean by war is politics with bloodshed? When you go to war, you don't only take over that land, you set up your policies and you enforce your policies, or you defend your policies and set them up in that land, okay? And those policies are inflicted or introduced by bloodshed. But when you deal with politics, which Christ was dealing with politics is war without bloodshed, okay? You're battling with words and thoughts and ideas of men, okay? Politics, policies in the land, okay? Instead of capitalize as much as you can, if you got two coats, give your neighbor one or your brother one. These are policies, okay? And Christ, matter of fact, the scriptures say our war isn't against the flesh, but against spiritual wickedness in high places, okay? Spiritual darkness in high places. So, again, it's not a war of the flesh, okay? It's politics, which is a war without flesh, without bloodshed, should I say? Okay, and that's what Christ came to do. And to prove that, I'm gonna just go to John chapter 11. Okay, and I'm gonna start at verse 45. And it reads, "Then many of the Jews who came to Mary and had seen the things which Jesus did believed on him." So Jesus was holding sort of a rally, okay, and had multiple rallies in the wilderness. But many people started to believe on his ways. Okay, but some of them went their ways to the Pharisees and told them what things Jesus had done. So Jesus was doing a lot of work, healing the people, feeding the poor, okay, taking care of the oppressed. Now this is something that the Black Panthers did in the 60s. Okay, and the Black Panthers were called criminals. They were setting up free breakfast programs for children. Okay, that's how your free breakfast came into the schools. They deemed the Black Panthers criminals and enemies and went to destroy these things. Black Panthers set up free healthcare clinics. The Chicago PD came in and destroyed the healthcare centers they had and burnt up all the medication. Okay, for why? For power. Okay, because they want the people coming to them for their medicine, not to get free medicine from the Black Panther Party. So this is what the people were doing with Jesus in a sense. So the rulers, it says, then gathered the chief priests and the Pharisees a council and said, "What do we do? For this man do many miracles." Okay, and he's doing many things. Okay, and and miracles in this day you don't have to do no just healing, praying over somebody, which that is good. But I'm talking about find herbal ways to do healings and things of that nature. Heal women. Okay, go out and find ways to relieve the oppressed, feed the poor, not just by yourself, but as a collective. Okay. It says, "If we let him thus alone, all men will believe on him." They came together and had a council and said, if we leave this man alone, all men will believe on him. Okay. Just as the FBI did with any black person rising up in the 60s. They call him the Black Messiah. If a Black Messiah rose, they wanted to eliminate him. And when they say eliminate him, we're gonna find out that they had the same thoughts back then. Eliminate him meaning kill him. Okay. because they didn't want the masses of people to follow this man. And in turn, you wouldn't be living in the society you would live in today if the masses followed a so-called black messiah in the 60s. Okay, but it says if we leave him alone, all men will believe on him, and the Romans will come and take away both our place, meaning our status in society, in this kingdom that we are in now, and our nation, meaning we won't even be in control of our nation anymore. Okay, which they thought they were because they were puppets set up in their own country by the Romans. And one of them named Caiaphas, being high priest, that same year said unto them, Ye know nothing at all, nor consider that it is expedient for us that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation should perish not. So what Caiaphas is saying is that we need to knock off this one man so none of us lose our positions. Okay, but in reverse, okay, it said that one man should die for the people, and Christ died for the people. And most people say he died for my sins, and really I don't think they understand that. Christ, in Torah, it says that, most people claim to be covered by the blood of Christ, but in Torah it says blood, it is the life, okay? Is the life of the animal, or is the life of anything, okay? The life is in the blood. Okay, so when you hear somebody say I'm covered by the blood, that means they're covered by their life. That means they're covered by Christ's life, okay? Not by his literal blood, but you're covered by the life that he lived, because the life that he lived made him get persecuted, and not only persecuted, but made him get sent up to get crucified, okay? Not because, no, because of the life that he lived. He was crucified. Okay, that lifestyle is going to get you crucified. Okay, if you're living a Christ way of life. Okay, and so he died for the people. Okay, so again, let me go back to Chairman Mao's book. Okay, another quote that people quote from Chairman Mao. It says, "All men must die, but death can vary in significance. All men is destined to die, but some men can die their whole life keeping Torah, okay, sitting at home. They keep the Sabbath, keep the feast days, never do nothing for the people, but they die a death in their bed at age 80, 90, okay. Or some men can be like Christ and live for the people, okay. Go out, do things for the people, keep Torah in that way, because that's really keeping Torah, when you actually love your neighbor as yourself and you're out there in the battle with these people, okay? And you can end up getting persecuted or even killed for doing things that go against the system, because the system is against people, is against life. If you're pro-life, the system will want to knock you off, just like they knocked Christ off, okay? So death can vary in significance. Though death befalls all men alike, it may be weightier than Mount Tide, or lighter than a feather. To die for the people is weightier than Mount Tide, but to work for the fascists and to die for the exploiters and the oppressors is lighter than any feather. Okay, so to die for the oppressor is light as a feather. Okay, that don't hold no weight. To die for the, you know how the troops get hero status in this country. The troops that go over to Iraq, but they fighting for the oppressor. Okay, but it says to die for the people is heavier or weightier than any high mountain. Okay, and it's deeper than any blue sea to die for the people. But to die for the exploiters and the oppressors is lighter than a feather. Okay, and Christ died for the people. That's why his death is remembered even till today. Okay, and many others who died for people, their deaths are remembered because their deaths carry some significance. Okay, and are heavier than other people's deaths. Okay. With that said, let me go to another quote from the chairman Mao. Okay, because a lot of so-called Israelites out here, okay, Matter of fact, let me just read this so you can understand. Because Christ's going to reiterate what Chairman Mao, a communist, is saying. Okay? He says, I hold that it is bad, and not bad as in cool. Okay? It is bad as far as we are concerned if a person, a political party, an army, or a school is not attacked by the enemy. And the enemy is the imperialists. Okay? For in that case, it would definitely mean that we have sunk to the level of the enemy. It is good if we are attacked by the enemy, since it proves that we have drawn a clear line of demarcation between the enemy and ourselves. He said it is good if you get attacked. Okay. I was reading Huey P. Newton's book. His book was called "To Die for the People." He said He said that the communist people of the American Communist Party. He says these people are not really doing anything, because if they were, they would be persecuted. Okay, and so he really don't think they hold any weight as an organization. He said if they were really doing things for the people, they would be persecuted as the Black Panthers were persecuted, killed, and jailed, and all things of this manner. Okay, the Black Panthers were killed, jailed, persecuted, as Chairman Mao said, because they drew a line. Christ was killed. The apostles were killed. Why? Because they drew a line. Okay? But Israelites out here, they doing what the system wants them to do. They ain't out here in the streets drawing no line and living for the people. Okay? And eventually will die for the people. Okay? So he says, it is still better if the enemy attacks us wildly and paints us as utterly black and without a single virtue. It demonstrates that we have not only drawn a clear line of demarcation between the enemy and ourselves, but achieved a great deal in our work. Christ achieved great deal in his work. Okay? That's what we should strive for. Great deal in our work. And when you're doing works, it's going to be a line draw. You're going to get noticed. Okay? Not because you draw the attention to yourself, but because you're putting in work. And righteous work is an enemy against the evil empire. Okay. To prove that, what Chairman Mao just said, let me go to Matthew chapter 10. Matthew chapter 10. I'm going to read verse 17. It says, but beware of men, for they will deliver you up to the councils, and they will scourge you in their synagogues. Okay, and the synagogue was just seems like a political arena as well. Okay, not just a church as people think of it today. Okay, beware of men, because even today, beware of men like me. If I claim to be communist, I got a communist patch on. People will try to say, "Hey, man, this man is a communist," and tell the laws or something like that, and have me watch just because of the principles I stand on. Okay, and because what they have been taught. And it says, verse 18, and ye shall be brought before governors and kings for my name's sake, for a testimony against them and the Gentiles. But when they deliver you up, now, like I said, a lot of people fighting for righteousness have been delivered up, jailed, okay? But they don't. But most people who deal with the Bible don't look at that as being acts of God fighting for the people and being jailed for that, okay? They look at keeping the Sabbath, which I'm saying, if you understand that, that's good. But the deeper meaning is the love that these people exert throughout their life. Okay. But when they deliver you up, be not anxious how you shall speak, for it shall be given to you in that same hour. Okay. So basically, he's letting you know you shall be persecuted. Okay. Just as Chairman Mao in this book said, right here. If you ain't getting persecuted, you're not doing something right. Okay. And trust me, we all got a long way to go, because we really not doing nothing until we come together and start actually putting together things for the masses, the people who are oppressed. Okay, we ain't doing what Christ and the apostles did. Okay, we just ain't. Okay, let me read some acts of Christ and what the people thought of Christ. I'm gonna read out of the Complete Jewish Bible real quick, just because I like how this is worded. Okay, and this is in the Garden of Gethsemane when Judas turned in the Messiah. Okay, And I'm going to just read this one verse, okay? It says, Then Yeshua addressed the crowd. So you came out to take me with swords and clubs the way you would a leader of a rebellion. Okay. Jesus said, y'all coming at me like I'm a leader of a rebellion. And another word for a rebellion, or a rebellion, is a lesser act than a revolution, or a preliminary step to a revolution. Okay. Rebellion. So Christ saying they came to him as one who is a leader of rebellion. But watch what Pontius Pilate says. And I'm going to read this out of the New American Standard Version. Okay. Now, I don't know my KJV because I like the way this is worded in this book. And if you read the KJV, it's just in different words, but it means the same thing. Okay? Same thing. Luke 23 verse 13 reads, And Pilate summoned the chief priests and the rulers and the people. So he gathered all these people together, and this is after Christ was arrested, and said to them, You brought this man to me as one who incites the people to rebellion. Okay? Pontius Pilate told the people, y'all brought this man to me as one who incites the people to rebellion. Okay? Why? Why are they saying this? Because like we read Chairman Mao say, politics is war without bloodshed. Okay? They understood this man to be declaring war just by his policies he was bringing, which was contrary, okay, to the policies of the Roman Empire. Okay? And even to the Pharisees, okay? Because the Pharisees loved the exploitation as well. Okay, but Pontius Pilate went on to say he didn't see none of this in Christ, because when you live a righteous life, when you're doing right, okay, people, it's hard to see that. Basically, they lined him up with being one of those zealots. Zealots were violent men, okay, who tried to take back the kingdom from the Romans. Christ's rebellion was total opposite. It was a spiritual one, okay, and a political one. So Pontius is basically saying he didn't see nothing of the sort what they were trying to, of the charges they were trying to bring up, because all Christ was, well, what we can read, Christ really didn't answer him much. But when you stand for truth, okay, there's nothing you can be accused of, okay, except for standing for righteousness, okay. Now, let me read a couple more scriptures, okay. One, or should I say, excerpts. Communism in the Bible by Jose Miranda, okay. Because let me just read this. It says, for a Christian to claim to not only be anti-Marxist but anti-Marx as well is probably owing to not having read all of Marx. Okay, so if you say you're anti-Marx, it's most likely you haven't read Marx. Okay, but when it all said and done, I do not really care. Jose said, I am under no obligation to defend Marx. Okay, but for a Christian to claim to be anti-communist is quite a different matter, and without doubt constitutes the greatest scandal of our century. Okay, it's a scandal for you to read the Bible and not understand that the principles Christ brought was communism. Okay, it's a scandal. I mean, you must be brainwashed. Okay, you have to be brainwashed. Okay, and this is the last book I'm gonna go to right here. The Story of Civilization, Caesar and Christ by Will Durant. Okay, and I'm gonna read a couple of places in it. I'm going to start on page 565. It reads, and many have interpreted the kingdom as a communist utopia, and have seen Christ and have seen in Christ a social revolutionist. He promised hunger and woe to the rich and filled, and comfort to the poor with the beatitudes that pledged them the kingdom. To the rich youth who asked what he should do besides keeping the commandments, Christ answered, sell your property, give your money to the poor, and follow me. Apparently, the apostles interpreted the kingdom as a revolutionary inversion of the existing relationship between the rich and the poor. We shall find them and the early Christians forming a communistic band which had all things in common, which you can read Acts 2, Acts 4. And that's the main thread line of communism, having all things in common. Okay. Now, let me read on page 572. It says, whether or not Christ was a revolutionist, he was obviously condemned by Rome as one, writes Tacitus, okay, to understand the matter so. So, Tacitus, okay, said, whether or not Christ was a revolutionary, the Romans condemned him as a revolutionary. Okay. Let me read my last script. This is about the early church in Rome, how the early church was persecuted by the Romans. It says, on its side, the church resented the Roman idea that religion was subordinate to the state. Okay? But it says, it saw an emperor worship, an act of polytheism and idolatry, and instructed its followers to refuse it at any cost. So the early church instructed its followers to refuse the Christian setup of church and state. Okay. The Roman government concluded that Christianity was a radical, perhaps a communist movement, subtly designed to overthrow the established order. He said subtly designed to. Why subtly? Because politics are war without bloodshed, and when you understand it's a mental and spiritual war, and a political, meaning your policies are being opposed. Okay, people look at that as slick if you ain't confronting them physically. Okay, and when I say physically, I'm talking about with swords and things. So with that, I didn't want it to be this long, but that's all I got to say for this matter. Hope everybody understood the message. Shalom Aleichem. All power to the people.